It's the Masters Tour here in Las Vegas, and we are amidst our top 8. I'm That's Admirable, and bringing me the next match with me is America's Grandmaster player, Bloodyface. Bloodyface, this is a great tournament, man. How you been?
I'm awesome. I'm very happy to be here. It's my first time casting. Very excited.
How was the tournament for you overall? You know, the experience here, obviously, a lot different than Grandmasters and the preparation for it. And I know you've been playing cards for a long time, so this is kind of back to your roots in terms of the big live events.
Yeah, I love big open tournaments. The tournament itself, I went 7-5, which was slightly above average. I was hoping for a little bit more, but it was just great to hang out with everybody and see all the players. I really love just the big open tournament scene, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and we got a lot of fun in this match as well, because I know you and I are both Warrior Mirror Match connoisseurs. That's what we got coming up. Hypno, we're taking a look at his deck list first. And I remember seeing this on day number 1 and looking at it and going, man, this is a great deck list, but how do they fit in those cards? It feels like a 36-card Warrior deck.
Right.
No Augmented Elic, and I love the choice in hindsight.
There's also no Omega Assembly as well, which is going to be pretty big in this matchup, where it's a card you generally want mid to late game.
What's kind of your overall take on this one? Like, any cards here that stand out as super important? I'm kind of looking at Azalina Soul Thief as a big kicker to this match.
Yeah, so he has Azalina Soul Thief over Elysiana. It's not as strong in the Warrior Mirror, but it does give you the potential to just play super aggressively. You know, empty out your hand, have the tempo, and then curve into the Azalina and fill out your resources again. Yeah,
and talking about Gallen's deck list, very much different, where he does have Omega Assemblies, and he has gone with Elysiana at the top end.
Yeah, his list is a lot more standard. He also foregoed the Augmented Elics, which is really interesting. Both of them have Spellbreaker in their deck, which is actually a card that we might see here with the inclusion of Snip Snap. Sometimes what happens in the Warrior game is you'll play a double Snip Snap on a Clockwork Goblin. It's very tough to answer, but in this case, they both have Spellbreaker, so yeah, that could come up. Yeah,
kind of looking at the card draw mechanisms in Warrior as well. You know, I saw you tweet out yesterday not only about how you wanted to play more Masters Tour stuff like right away, but also just about Acolyte of Pain, like in every deck.
Yeah, I mean, Warrior has some of the best cards in the game. It has both Dr. Booms, and when you draw Dr. Boom more often, you win more often. So I'm a big fan of Acolyte of Pain. I just want to draw the powerful cards.
That also tells me that Spellbreaker, a much better choice in that regard, because you could stop your opponent from drawing the more powerful cards more often.
Yeah, I think Spellbreaker is a great call this weekend. It shores up the mech matchup, which is Warrior's toughest matchup, and it also has utility in the mirror as well.
Yeah, so we're getting underway. It's game 1, Gallen and Hypno. This is the upper portion of the bracket, where both of Gallen and Hypno were able to be victorious in their first match yesterday. This is the dual tournament stage that we are in right now. So for top 8, you have to win twice to get out of the group, but if you lose twice, you're then out of the tournament. And then from top 4, it moves back over to single elimination. And early on here, we see Gallen with Dr. Boom Mad Genius, but you know, Purple in Grandmasters, one of the players there, he's talked a lot about Bomb Warrior matchups. And it was actually me, him, and Gallen had worked on this matchup a lot together to talk about some of the particulars on it. And I feel like all 3 of us came to 3 different conclusions on how to play it, but all 3 of us were winning with the practices we were exercising, where I was somewhat in favor of mulliganing Dr. Boom at times, depending on the builds. Purple was like, oh, you always want to be aggressive. I never keep this card. And he genuinely was not keeping it in matchups. I'm curious about your take on the mulligan and some of the most important cards there.
I think I keep Dr. Boom like 70% of the time. Like, it's a card I generally want, but there are matchups, like against Mage, for example, where I'm looking to be more aggressive, and it's just a 7-mana card that I'm not trying to grind them out in the primary. Like, maybe in the tertiary when I have big game hunters and super colliders. But in the Warrior Mirror, I think you always want Dr. Boom. It's super important to have. There are times when it won't win you the game, particularly when your opponent has Blastmaster Boom, and they're able to just kill you with the Boom bots. But if that doesn't happen, then you generally want the Death Knight.
And I'll tell you the sign of 2 players who are experienced at Warrior. Confident, quick play early on.
Yeah, so in this matchup, I think that Hypno's going to have to play a bit more aggressively since he doesn't have the Elysiana and the Omega Assembly. Whereas Gallen can kind of take it a little bit easier in the early to mid game. In the late game, he's going to have the advantage with Omega Assemblies, and he's going to be able to start pressuring Hypno at that point.
So kind of looking at it from a top-down perspective, you know, Gallen's never looking to try and get solely a more aggressive start because he has the inevitability at the end.
I mean, he'll take it. Like, if you just draw bombs into Blastmaster Boom, that's still, you're going to be very far ahead. But with the particular draw that he has, he's going to be playing reactive this game, especially with the Dr. Boom Mad Genius in hand.
Yeah, it stings a bit.
Yeah, it's a rough spot for Hypno. You know, I think he might shield block here to try and look for the Blastmaster. Developing the Spellbreaker doesn't do too much. But then again, you kind of want a minion on board. One thing I found really interesting about Hypno was that he kept the Harrison Jones and he mulliganed away the Snip Snap. I would keep the Snip Snap if I were him. I think one of the best ways that you can win the mirror is just by playing. It's, you know, on turn 6, if you play it in Magnetic, it's a 4/6. It's like Karen almost. Yeah. It's got a very powerful death rattle, and if you have a minion in play, you get to smack him in the face for 4 more damage.
Well, there's the plan for Hypno. He needs some gas, and he has to find a way to get aggressive. I feel like since he was not able to take initiative early on in this one as well, this is just every single turn that doesn't happen, it feels like it's a little bit more favorable for Gallon.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Gallon here, you got to be so excited. You're going to turn 5, and it's an empty board. You still got that Mad Genius in hand. You got answers. Like, he's in a great position. Hypno, on the other hand, does have the Spellbreaker for the Acolyte, which is nice. Gallon's only sitting on 5 cards, so from Hypno's point of view, he might not have the Mad Genius already, so shutting off the card draw, from his point of view, is extremely important.
Ooh,
that's a really nice pickup.
That's for Hypno hanging on to the Harrison as well, though.
Yeah, this is a really interesting decision point. If Gallon's keeping track of cards, he knows that Hypno still has a card kept in hand. You can see him hesitating a little bit, considering if that's Harrison Jones or not.
How difficult is it to track at a tournament like this? You know, you've been in these situations before where it's a lot different than just playing at home and kind of casually taking things and practicing for something. Like, you're on a big stage now, and the matches mean a lot, not only in terms of your standings for the end of the year and potentially making it towards one of those Grandmaster slots, but just also the amount of dollars that are at stake.
Yeah. I mean, I personally don't find hand tracking that hard. Like, generally they only keep like 1 or 2 cards, so you just kind of stare at their hand when they're taking their turn and try and just keep track. I don't know. I mean, it's different for everybody. I know in this tournament you have the advantage of having pen and paper, which I have taken the liberty of using a lot. Oh, wow. It's a double bomb draw.
Yeah, it's actually not so good for Hypno because that takes away a lot of the Blastmaster draws.
Right, yeah. If he were to top that Blastmaster here, he's going to be very sad. And I imagine he doesn't feel too great about seeing this Mad Genius right now. But he does have tempo. He does have the 5/4 in play, and he's able to choose how he wants to develop. He doesn't really have very strong options. He can go for the double Snip Snap and Town Crier. It looks like one of the more appealing options.
God, just staring at Delivery Drone. That's like the one you don't want to see.
Yeah, especially when your opponent's not very high on cards. So you can choose to take it a bit slow here and play the Militia Commander. No? Okay.
I feel like he's trying to open up a Blastmaster draw as well.
Sense. So he's going to try and stay as greedy as possible with the Snip Snap. I think ideally when your opponent has Spellbreaker in their deck, you want to magnetize onto 2 different minions. You don't want to go super tall on one. So that might be what he's considering here.
Another Wrench Caliber drawn as well. Gallon is just in a great spot this game.
He doesn't have like a super clean answer to the Harrison. He's going to have to trade the Militia Commander for it, and the Clockwork Goblin is still going to be in play, which opens him up to Snip Snap, but Gallon, of course, has the Spellbreaker, so it's going to be interesting to see how these players navigate.
Just thinking about Warpath this turn as well.
Especially in conjunction with the Kaboom bot, I think that's is that a full clear?
Well, it's a clear with just the Warpath. You trade in the Acolyte Harrison.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay, that's pretty solid.
I feel like
I like that.
You have the rush up, so it's just you're not really too worried about anything. Gallon looks like he's interested in hanging on to Warpath, perhaps. Nope. Yep. It's just clean.
It's kind of difficult to get a ton of value off Warpath. I think this is definitely, you're hitting the ceiling of it right now. Clearing off, what, 9 power? It's pretty good for 6 mana.
I've always been a big fan of, if you're in a big state of parity, to be able to use like Eternium Rovers and Town Criers when they play Blastmaster and load up a bunch of Boombots and just try to absorb the damage with your little minions.
The most ideal scenario is when you have Security Rover.
Ooh.
And like, I had one turn in the tournament where I shield slammed the 7/7 and then played the Rover, and I had Mad Genius out, so I was able to train to the bombs, and the bombs kept hitting the Rover. So I kept getting more 2/3s. It was like I was going infinite. It's like the Blastmaster actually gave me a full board.
6 mana turn your opponent's board into your board.
Right, yeah. So yeah, for Hypno right now, it's Not a lot of options.
Yeah, it's looking rough.
His hand's pretty reactive. He's got the Brawl, he's got the Warpath. I think not magnetizing is pretty smart here, just to play around the Spellbreaker. And also, you just saw a Warpath, so even if these Snip Snaps die and leave 1/1s, they're going to be a little bit difficult to remove.
Just get to keep chipping away.
Yeah.
Just snipping and snapping.
It's going to be really interesting when Hypno draws his Azalina, because I think once he draws Azalina, we might see a shift in how quickly he disposes of his hand. Because right now his hand side's pretty big.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Is Hypno has been, I think, giving more nod to like a Blastmaster draw than he has been to like an Azalina draw. And so that is something to really think about. You know, you look at the matchup on paper, and Hypno, I think Game 1 is just at a major disadvantage. He's got a Super Collider in the deck. You know, he has Azalina over the Archivist Feliciana, which is so many things that feel like they're working against him in that regard. And so when I kind of look at it in totality, it looks like he's playing more to, I think, his strongest potential, which is, you know, maybe taking an aggressive stance and getting there because of it.
And that's really smart. That's something that kind of separates a mid-level grinder from one of the best players, is just recognizing what are my best chances of winning. Even though I'm at a significant disadvantage, you want to give yourself the most percentage points as you can. And
that was exactly how Gallon, me, and Purple all arrived at 3 different points to try to win a disadvantaged Bomb Warrior matchup.
It's interesting.
You know, you can only get in so many games with that's how long they take.
It's actually interesting because I think week 1 of GM, we were talking about this earlier, where a lot of players were just burning bombs and playing kind of passively, and they're just playing straight for fatigue, which is kind of counter to what people do nowadays, which is play for tempo. So, and I think the reason for that is it's a product of, it just takes a really, really long time to play a Warrior Mirror. So when you're testing the matchup, it's kind of difficult to come to a conclusion after a few games.
Yeah, just a long-term discovery process.
Yep.
I mean, look how long it took to figure out that D4 was just the move in chess.
That's true.
Centuries.
I mean, I prefer E4 personally.
Don't tell that to Magnus.
Wow. That Omega Assembly is really good. You got a second Omega Devastator. I think Gallon actually only runs... What does he run to?
It's a 1 copy in the main deck for Gallon.
Right, it is Hypno that has the 2 Omega Devastators. So yeah, that's pretty sneaky. You know, once you play the Omega Devastator that's natural in your deck, they never expect the second one. Although it's always on your mind, you know, after they play the assembly.
The thing for me is that's the 4th Clockwork Goblin for Gallon. I believe.
Yeah, the bombs are starting to stack up.
2 of the ones he's played are just from discoveries.
And it looks like Gallon's starting to take the tempo now. I don't think Hypno's going to have a hard time answering his boards, but the major flaw for Hypno is how is he going to get tempo back?
Yeah, so that's something I think about for Hypno. You know, something that opened my eyes a lot to an inflection point in the game was actually at the World Championships when you were playing against Roger. And he was so light on board AoE just in the natural deck list that you recognized a turn 10 opportunity to just play 2 Omega Devastators and get very aggressive. And that actually just straight up ended the game.
Yep.
One of the things that I've always thought about in the Warrior matchup is when do I use my Omega Devastators if I need to be the aggressor? And so I think that's something Hypno's looking for, is he's trying to get Gallon's important resources and then unleash back with these 2 Omega Devastators.
Yeah, I think ideally you want to drop both the Devastators in the same turn. Try and present a board that's difficult to deal with. So yeah, Gallon just gets the second Omega.
Hard to force someone to use all their resources when they draw 6 extra cards. That's
another Clockwork Goblin.
That's the 3rd discovered Clockwork.
I mean, I can see why Gallon doesn't run the Augmented Elix now. He just gets Clockwork Goblins off the Omega Assembly, doesn't need the extra bombs.
You know, I really like the idea because one of the biggest problems I've run into with this deck is getting aggressive and just having my own Dynomatic sit in my hand when I have an Alec live.
Right.
And I'm like, I really want to kill their minion.
Alec can be a liability in the mirror. That is a good point.
If you expect a lot of Warriors, why give him that opportunity?
That's true. So Hypno just drew Blastmaster, but you generally want to play it on empty board.
Yeah, also the other thing too is I have not been tick marking the bombs as normal.
Yeah, I could have been a little bit more diligent. I think for Hypno right now that he drew the Blastmaster, I think he wants to have a few waves of like super aggression. So I think you want to like go double, maybe not this turn, but at some point you want to go double Omega Devastator, force your opponent to deal with that, and then drop the Blastmaster and hope that they didn't save enough resources for your second refill.
Yeah. The 2 simultaneous back-to-back pushes.
Yep. I think that's what he's going to be looking for here.
Yeah, that spells the Shield Slam. kind of look at that Ziliax almost too, but you know, Ziliax represents 3 extra damage in an unchecked mech spot.
Mm-hmm. So for Gallon here, he doesn't really have any great ways of taking tempo. He's kind of just parroting right now, which is, I think, what he wants to do. He does have the inevitability of Elysiana as long as he plays that before Hypno can play the Azalina, and I don't think Hypno's going to play any Azalina anytime soon, so Gallon's not really feeling any pressure right now. It's a good pickup. You could Clockwork Ziliax, next turn double Omega, and then the turn following go Blastmaster Boom.
Yeah, the Clockwork Ziliax here actually...
oh, okay.
Oh, interesting. So to me, the Clockwork Ziliax oftentimes represented an Omega Devastator from Gallon. That's why he wouldn't play the Blastmaster Boom. That's why he's playing it immediately. This is a low bomb count.
I just feel like this is a little bit too weak, but I mean, then again, it's just none of his plays are that strong. Yeah. So, you know, it is. You could play the Blastmaster early and just kind of hope your opponent doesn't draw the Omega Devastator or didn't get it off one of the assemblies. The longer you wait, the more likely they are to have it. So, I think he's just trying to pick a spot where, you know, it's more likely to survive. I mean, Gallon's just spoiled for choice here. Yeah. It's just a matter of how do I want to efficiently remove
the embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, if you're a Hypno fan, you don't like to see that bomb hitting for 1 either.
Yeah, I think you know, I feel for Hypno in this one where it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. I mean, at what point is he really going to snag tempo in this one? I feel like looking at both hands, you know, because I can see the top-down perspective, I feel like his best chance was to try to leverage the Ziliax tempo, force Gallon to use a resource, follow up with your Devastators. Gallon answers back, you have the Blastmaster.
Yeah, that's
just missing the boom count.
Yeah, I mean, and you also give yourself time to draw another bomb activator, maybe, you know, just try and get some more boom bots for the Blastmaster turn. Yeah. I think at this point, Hypno's trying to play for the Azalina. You can see him using his resources more aggressively. He doesn't have a Azalina right now, but if he were to draw it in the next few turns, it might turn out pretty well.
Interested in life restoration too. A lot of bombs in the deck.
And this is really rough for Hypno because he just saw the Omega Devastator. He knows Gallon only runs 1 copy. He's not going to be expecting the second Omega Devastator right now.
Yeah.
Just an embarrassment of riches for Gallon. He has the Shield Slam as well, the Spell Breaker if he wanted to.
The player with the Elysiana definitely has a much more privileged position with how they want to play.
Also the player that had Mad Genius on 7 as well.
That definitely affects it. But I just think, like, from a macro perspective, I think this was Gallon's game plan all along.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, even without the Mad Genius here, Gallon's gas still would have been very strong. You know, he'd have some less life, but he's had the tools to handle everything so far.
So at this point, if you're Gallon, you want to think about how do I play around Azalina the best? And playing around Azalina is really tough because you're incentivized to not want to have strong cards in your hand. You don't want to have cards like Omega Devastator that can give your opponent back tempo. But then again, you want to save these cards, you know, for worst case type scenarios. But I think in this case, he recognizes that, you know, Azalina is Hypno's best out at this point, so he's just going to start playing his more powerful cards first.
Yeah, and Hypno getting stranded with Brawls, stranded with Warpath.
Yeah.
Nothing to do.
I mean, could play the Dynomatic. He hasn't seen a Harrison yet, I believe, so you probably don't want to develop the Collider. There's no super great way for Gallon to get bored here. He does have the 3/1/1s, of course, with the hero power. I think that might just be enough for what he wants to do right now.
Opponent did nothing, do nothing back. 1-2, 3/1/1s.
Yeah, that game plan definitely favors Gallon, especially when you're getting 3/1/1s. I mean, you know how powerful the Odd Paladin's hero power was. Getting 3/1/1s is even better. And he got the delivery drone.
Ah, that's right. Oddest Paladin.
All
okay.
Right.
Is it too late, though?
Up. You know, he could still discover Mechathune. I think, you know, you got to remember, that's always, whenever I'm in a super bad spot with Warrior, I just think Mechathune. Can I please get Mechathune?
I take Mechathune every single time.
I mean, 10-10 Rush is just good. Like, it just answers most things. And
10. There's 4 digits in the attack and health portion.
It's no Boom Reaver, but, you know, the alternate win condition is pretty nice.
Unity, precision,
Now on the offensive, Hypno. This is a big reprieve, though. I mean, he gets to kind of sit back now, use these tools that he's been stranded with in hand, and try to find some time to leverage like big discoveries, getting his own microbots, and
Ooh,
with Azalina picked up now as well.
Azalina. No Elysiana on hand for Gallon yet. That's the card you really, really want to hit off Azalina if you can.
What do you think is like the ideal moment to wait for something like that then? The highest chance for Gallon to have Elysiana, where he can consider playing it, but not quite yet.
I mean, generally, I think when you have like around like 5 cards left, you can play Elysiana as long as you're, you know, he's already got his Mad Genius. He hasn't drawn Blastmaster yet, so you don't really want to override that. But it's really important that you play the Elysiana before your opponent plays the Azalina. And you just want to play it so that you're ahead on fatigue. You know, if he plays it when he has 5 cards left and his opponent has 10, for example, he'll jump up, or sorry, right now Hypno has 9, so if he waits like 4 more turns, goes down to 5, Hypno will have 5 cards left and Gallon will have 10.
Bloody face, I'm fearing for Hypno. It's just, Gallon has so much stuff in hand, and Hypno's under pressure. Like I just don't know when he's going to be able to play this Elysiana. I'm sorry, the Azalina.
Yeah, yeah.
Why are they both that cadence of name?
They have similar roles too, right? Like it's usually one or the other.
The final card refill.
Yeah.
I feel like it's approaching next turn. Shield Slam, Azalina, Discovery
Ooh,
Drone.
There's the Elysiana. Yeah, I mean, even if Hypno does land Azalina now and gets the Elysiana, he's just behind on board. I think that's the biggest thing.
So Gallon has to be bluffing that Spellbreaker at this point, correct? Like
What
he
do you
has to be
mean?
using that to represent something else. Is he actually just playing this?
So right now, Gallon just wants to have board like every turn because as long as Gallon has board, Hypno can't play the Azalina or he just gets hit in the face for a bunch of life points.
I think Gallon is trying to represent that as something else. Like maybe it's the Azalina, maybe
Really?
it's the Harrison Jones, and I want to play it just because I'm not getting use out of it right now. Cause this is a very Gallonist play. He's actually going to use it. What in the heck?
Yeah, he's just playing for board.
Is that really the best one?
Well, he recognizes that his opponent has to have Azalina in order to come back, so he just
That's
wants to pressure
weird.
as much as possible. I like this.
I guess just peel the Shield Slam armor. Dynamatic's so appealing
See if
too.
we get that Mechathune. Mega Devastator's nice, but I just don't think it's enough. Really wanted Mechathune. Although Mechathune's pretty awkward when you have Azalina, right? Because you play Azalina first, it overrides your Mechathune. You play Mechathune first, they kill it. So I guess we're saving the Mechathune high roll for later on.
Next delivery drone.
But I fear that I think Hypno's probably just going to die before that point. He only has 6 cards left. Time is running out.
All right, weaponized Pinata into Toki and Reno.
Is there? I feel like there's a better legendary. Jiraxis?
Probably is. I'm just thinking of.
Oh, it has to be an old legendary. That's
Yeah.
right.
I'm thinking of ways to keep your life total high after all the bombs hit, because he's still got a lot of those approaching as well.
That's true. This is interesting. I wonder if he's considering playing Elysiana here. He has 7 cards left, so if he goes up to 10, he's going to win in fatigue. The only downside, the biggest downside is he hasn't played Blastmaster yet. And then the thing is, as soon as Gallon draws Blastmaster, the game is almost certainly over. So it's kind of at a weird tension right now where does he want to play Elysiana before the Azalina, or does he still want to wait for the Blastmaster? The problem is his other options aren't that great. Like he just has some Shield Slams, Harrison, and Dynamatic. It's kind of hard for him to get bored right now. So
I guess one of my questions is, how does Gallon lose if he plays Elysiana? Now your opponent doesn't have one.
that makes a lot of sense.
I think it's kind of what Gallon's thinking, honestly.
It's going to have to go really quickly here.
Portal, Armorsmith, get Dragon Maw Scorcher.
I like Scorcher, Bulldozer for sure.
Yeah, you got Rush
Just want
up.
big stuff.
Ooh, Honker. Probably Proud Defender in that instance, just an awkward health total for Hypno. And there, yep. So Vengeful Scrolls over the, interesting.
I think Scrolls is technically more value than Hogger, since Hogger is pretty easy to remove.
Makes sense to me.
It's just more stats.
Less overall in the late term, but more overall in the immediate. And immediate's typically what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And now for Hypno, they've seen Elysiana get thrown out of the mix.
Yeah, this Azalina's very, very sad.
This would be a good time for a master plan.
Indeed it would.
Yeah, so Hypno's behind on fatigue and behind on life. Their hands are about equal though, so definitely super Gallon favored.
2 Brawls stranded, Super Collider stranded. A lot of this is going to change in the secondary and tertiary decks here for Hypno.
Yeah, so Gallon actually doesn't. I believe Gallon doesn't actually have a secondary or tertiary deck for Warriors, so he's going to be staying on primary.
So for kind of looking at it, I'm going to deviate away a little bit from this game, where the secondary deck, we bring in a Cairn, an Archivist of Elysiana, and a Boom Reaver for Hypno in this spot. That's a lot of stuff that you get to add in at the top end to keep pressuring and to make sure that you can match Elysiana's. And for Gallon, if I remember correctly, his EMP Operatives is one of his decks, and the other one is an anti-mage build. So I think the primary is what Gallon's sticking with. I think in games 2 and 3, it's got to be Hypno favorite.
For sure, for sure. But I don't think it's like super favored. Like Cairn and Boom Reaver are really good and all, but it's still going to come down to like early Blast Master, early Mad Genius, like tempo type stuff. Like those are tools that you want to help you in the matchup, but they're not going to be slam dunks. And the Elysiana over the Azalina is going to be really nice for him because then he doesn't have to worry about trying to steal that the Elysiana. He can just have it on his own.
You're not pigeonholed into an aggressive game plan.
Right, exactly. Then the onus becomes on Gallon, who has less resources. He doesn't have Cairn, he doesn't have the Boom Reaver. Gallon's going to be the one that's going to have to play for tempo a bit more.
Yeah, he has to make up that value somewhere, or he has to grab tempo and take advantage of it.
Yep.
Is that easier to do with Hypno having a heavier deck to grab tempo?
Let's look at his list. So Hypno has 0 Warpaths and 2 Brawls. So yeah, Brawl's a bit awkward, especially if you go tall with something like Snip Snap or something, but I guess he does have the Spellbreaker in that case.
Yeah, this game is reaching its ending now that all the bombs are hitting for Hypno. Down to 6, lost tempo, no way to restore deck. I mean, this has been a foregone conclusion. I think since Gallon played that Elysiana, he recognized, you know what, I really can't lose if I do this.
Yeah.
I just have the tools necessary.
Yeah, I think Hypno's best way of winning game 1 was just to curve into Blastmaster, which did not happen.
Definitely harder to have just a straight up aggressive curve out gameplay with less Elix too.
Yeah, no Elix it hurts a lot. I think like one of Warrior's best draws is Coin Helic into Clockwork. Like most decks just lose to that.
For Gallon, I'd like to see him hang on to this Warpath, I think. It's your last way to immediately answer the board since your deck is full of non-mechs at this point.
This would be a good time.
Yeah, you don't really care if Hypno Azalina's you at this point. He's just going to lose in fatigue, and if he has the same hand as you do, it's not going to matter.
Really wants to delivery drone, but I'm looking at Proud Defender.
I mean, actually, the
Sorry, the Microbots, yeah, excuse me. I can see Microbot Shield Slam as well, just efficient. I love the portals.
That's it. I'm out of cards.
Yep.
Yeah, these are the cards that he has to work with for the rest of the game. Plus the Azalina, so I guess he gets Gallon's cards. The problem is his board just isn't strong enough to make this Azalina count for anything. He might just concede after he sees Gallon's hand, to be honest. But when you're playing at this stage, why not play it out?
Yeah.
You know, let your opponent make mistakes.
Came here to play the Masters Tour.
Never know, yeah. There's no EV in conceding.
You know it's rough when Gallon favors the damage over killing the 1/1.
Right. Well, he just knows that Hypno has the same hand, so he can't answer this board.
That's one of the coolest things to think about Azalina is the timing of it with tempo.
I love Azalina games. I mean, it's just like chess, right? Like, all the information's on the table. So it's just a matter of you have perfect information. Well, your opponent has one random draw or whatever, but...
It's getting the position and then taking advantage of it. You have to get the position first.
Yeah, you need board with Azalina.
That's the feeling that Hypno has right now, the alarm bot sound. Yeah, the bulldozer's going to do it. Put him to sleep. Because you get it? It's a dozer. It's dozing off.
It's an expected result for game 1 here for Gallon.
Yeah, and that's that was one of the big talking points I had with Gallon coming into this event. He talked to me a lot about wanting to play Warrior because he had the most practice on it, and he just felt it could be the strongest deck. It has the best game 1 potential, he felt. And so he wanted to be strong against Warrior in game number 1, and then try to just have it close to even in games 2 and 3. If you can take game number 1, what that means is in one of the next 2 games, you're likely to take one of them. And so that's a favorite series in his head.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. If your favorite game 1 with Warrior and your other 2 decks are opened up to shore up the bad matchups like Mech, he's the EMP operative, that's your weak point. Mage is another weak point, so he's another side deck against that. It just shores up the bad matchups. Makes a lot of sense.
It's also for things that you expect to bring or things that you can expect to run into in those situations. This was a 280-some player field, and so when you look at it, there were a number of players who brought Mech Paladin and a handful of players who brought Mech Hunter, and I kept hearing stories of players coming up to me after their rounds and gone, there's like 8 Mech Hunters in the tournament. I've played against 2 of them. And I'm like, yeah, well, EMP operative, am I right?
The range of different decks you can play against is much wider in this kind of field, so it makes sense that you want to be prepared for those scenarios.
And taking a look at this one, Hypno is going to be on secondary deck, and so this is a lot that gets picked up. 2 Omega Assemblies, 6 extra cards. Karen Bloodhoof, the Archivist Lysiana to balance it out, the Boom Reaver. Hypno had a very different approach to it, but with a very similar thought in mind. I want to be strong in game number 1 versus the field, and then in games number 2 and 3, I'll supplement where I need to. So Warrior was not his focus in game number 1. It was I think a little bit more just of a balanced range in game number 1 where you just have tools that can get the job done.
I actually think that was better. I think that's smarter. Like, even though Warrior was the most played deck, it was only a third of the field. So 2 out of 3 matches you're not going to play against Warrior. It just makes statistically more sense to have your primary deck be better against not Warrior. So I really like Hypno's approach.
Gallon is sticking on the primary deck, so what you saw for Gallon there is what you get. And Bloodyface, I wanted to ask you about that as well. Just the contrast from last year's preparation to this year's. Last year in Conquest, you had to have 4 decks ready. You had to think about a lineup strategy overall. And just taking into account versus Specialist overall. I've heard so many strong opinions about which way you want to go with building a primary deck and then a secondary and tertiary, which can be up to 5 cards different. You're queuing up for potentially in games 2 and 3. Have you found it like that there's any mind gaminess to it with some of the deck lists or just your approach overall?
I think the biggest mind game is Shrivala Paladin versus Bomb Warrior, where Shrivala has the Undertaker package. One of my friends, Elfindor, he played against a Warrior that was extremely frustrated because he expected Elfindor to go into the Undertaker Welt package, and so the Warrior player boarded in his EMP operatives and his anti-mech strategy, and Elfindor just stayed on his primary, and all of his answers were just stranded. And Elfindor won that match because of that.
That is totally an Elfindor way to play, too. I
love it, yeah.
I'm a big fan of him because he played a just pretty much exclusively Togwaggle Druid, which is one of my favorite decks because there's just a lot of weird situations you get into. And he was so good at it. And so hearing that that's the kind of thing he's doing, zero surprise to me whatsoever.
Yeah. So this is I enjoy games where both players have Mad Genius in their hand because then the game doesn't feel so one-sided. It feels like both players have got the major resource that they need. Then it just becomes about resource management and tempo, which is a lot more interesting than just one player having free value every turn.
So talking about that, Hypno's on coin again in this game. I definitely am of the opinion we're in a coin meta right now. Like, you want to build decks that can take advantage of having it. And I feel like with Bomb Warrior's range, your 3-drop potentially being super important, or back-to-back 4-drops being potentially super important, or even just the 7s at that point. I feel like Hypno is at an advantage this game, A, because of the deck list change, and then B, just because of the extra card that he's got at this point.
Yeah, and if you see here, he also coined out the Wrench Caliber, which is dodging the Harrison Jones in Galen's hand right now. It's a very heads-up play. Just wants to get maximum value out of it.
Coin lets you play around the Harrison Jones, where if you're going first, your Wrench Caliber's always vulnerable.
Yeah, I mean, in a game like Hearthstone, you always want more options. And I'm actually kind of interested to see that Galen did not Snip Snap here. I'm not sure if I agree with that or not. He's kind of just giving up the board right now, which if Hypno doesn't have a way to capitalize on that, sure, you know, you get some more value, but at the same time, if he does have a way to capitalize on that, you know, like let's say Hypno has an Omega Devastator here. How does Galen respond? I guess he has the Shield Slam.
I'm kind of thinking about
the
response from Hypno's being like Militia Commander. I feel like Militia Commander is tough for Galen no matter what, so maybe he just doesn't want to let Hypno land a Militia Commander just yet. Like, you don't want to necessarily have to play Dynomatic next turn.
Sure.
But I feel like at the same time, if you use the Snip Snap, what that means is Hypno will often need to respond with a Militia Commander, which means you get to Harrison Jones. Ah, yeah, that's kind of weird.
I like this. I just like playing for tempo.
Because now what do you do with your Snip Snap?
Right, exactly. You want to use Snip Snap when you have tempo. And sometimes your opponent just doesn't have the correct answer that they need, and you get really good value out of it.
Could be thinking about Spellbreaker as well, where if it gets magnetized, you take that big hit.
He's more likely to have Spellbreaker the longer the game goes on. So I like to play. I don't like to play around things early game. Just force them to have it. They have it. They have it. It's not a huge loss. Like, you still have the Mad Genius in your hand. You don't know that Hypno has the Mad Genius in hand either. Maybe Galen just thinks that he can play the long game because he's guaranteed to have it on turn 7.
That's an interesting point too. Is, you know, Snip Snap is a very powerful tool later on with Dr. Boom in play.
Right. Yeah. You do get more value out of it for sure.
First turn looking rough. Galen fighting hard to make sure that Hypno doesn't seize tempo.
This is kind of what I'm talking about. I mean, Hypno just played a single card in Snip Snap, and it forced Galen to use not only Shield Slam, but also a Warpath. Two different cards.
Doesn't feel good. I definitely can see the Warpath, just not a very strong card overall in the matchup.
He does have 2 as well.
Yeah, I mean, Hypno's moved out the Warpaths from the deck to move over to the secondary here. The Shield Slam, however, that one stings a bit.
So now Hypno has to decide if he wants to continue pushing tempo with the Omega Devastator. I think it really only gets punished by the Militia Commander. I think you should definitely play the Devastator. I mean, I might have Caster Vision here, but with that Ziliax in hand, the reward of just being able to put a Ziliax on it this early in the game is huge.
Yeah, to me, the signal on the Devastator, it's so funny to me how you and I are just thinking about things like the exact same way on this. Like, I just saw a Shield Slam.
Right.
I want to threaten my opponent now.
Yes, absolutely.
And we saw what he did with Ziliax last game. He wanted to wait until it could deliver damage or until it was necessary to use it for defense. I don't feel like he is going to have to play defense this game. And so for me, I think this is the signal for Hypno to get aggressive.
Hypno has tons of resources in hand. He has the Omega Assembly, he has the Boom Reaver, he has Mad Genius. Just play the Devastator. You know, you got tons of leftover stuff. It's okay if you don't deal 10 damage.
I'm not minding the Dynomatic either. Because it does present a very similar style of play.
4 toughness is equally as hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's pretty much Militia Commander.
Ooh, and Galen drew the second Shield Slam.
That is a very nice draw.
Galen is dodging right now.
You love to see that if you're a Galen fan. If you're a Hypno fan, though, you're pretty much still liking his hand, too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty good.
Yeah, there's no way he plays a Snip Snap here. Just get punished a lot of different ways.
Run it back.
Yeah, so now Hypno's in a not-so-happy spot. He played the Devastator for tempo, got punished, even though I think it was the correct play. Now it's just a matter of does he want the Dynomatic in play right now.
Does that tell you anything about Galen's hand as well? You know, you just saw the Shield Slam, and then you see Galen play the top-decked one.
Yeah, you know he doesn't have Militia Commander.
That's kind of where I'm thinking, too. So I feel like the Dynomatic a little bit more safe in that spot. You just don't expect it to die. He's going to hang on to it.
I think I would have liked to see the Dynomatic there.
I feel like it's just chip damage, right? You know, Galen, this is going to be his most powerful turn. It's the one, obviously, you don't want to see. But when it's there, I feel like I want to snag that damage.
Yeah. Look, I think we're just going to see 2 Mad Geniuses coming out right now.
You know that song where they duel, where The Devil Went Down to Georgia and they
Yeah.
duel the violins. That is what I wish the theme music would become.
And Hypno emoting, he recognizes that both players had the turn 7 Mad Genius.
He's feeling the dueling violins right now.
Yeah. And I think just looking at the hands, Hypno's pretty far ahead with the double assembly.
Whoever wins gets the clockwork made of gold.
So for Gallon right now, I think I would like to see just 2 snip snaps separated, not stacked on each other. Really?
I don't know if he's supposed to do anything here.
I just feel like giving up tempo, though. Like, Gallon's list just isn't well equipped to do this sort of thing.
My experience with this has been that Gallon will tend to take things slow until he can recognize a pretty pure advantageous point. You know, I've played a lot of Hearthstone with Gallon, and he preaches about minions and tempo all the time.
This is super interesting because Hypno, who has generally played quickly but also taken some time on turns, he just played that turn 8 super quickly, hero power, immediately pass. I think it's him recognizing that his deck is more well equipped going for the long game, and he's basically saying, you know what, Gallon, go ahead, just don't do anything, I'll do nothing too, and my cards will just be better card for card.
Yes, and to me, that has been one of the things that I really have to praise Hypno for, is when in these situations where the opponent is trying to create this weird stance where they go, well, I hope you make an error so I can capitalize on it. Hypno has not been making those errors. And that, to me, is one of the marks of some of the best players in the world I've seen, is the ability to take a step back and go, you know what, if my opponent's doing nothing, the best thing I can do is nothing, and that's some of the hardest turns in Hearthstone to make.
Right. That's something that I think a lot of mid-level players don't recognize as an option, is that they do have the option of just doing nothing, and that is correct sometimes. It's hard to identify when that is the case. And one thing I did want to point out that is also really interesting is Gallon did not play shield block last turn. He did nothing with his mana, which I think is him recognizing the fact that he wants to play this to fatigue.
That is potentially an out right now. And honestly, if you're going to play that way and the game goes slow, some of the things that it opens you up to is, number one, it gives you options to find dynamatic counterplay to keep that parity there. You know, Hypno, if he's going to play this long game, he's going to have to expend militia commanders at time to keep his hand strength high. And then number two is, for Gallon, it turns a lot of the, I would say, poor mechs into very strong mechs at that point, where he's going to be able to threaten Hypno with Beryllium Nullifiers or with Security Rovers at that point. Hypno's going to be able to do the same thing, but if your plan is to go to fatigue here, I actually just don't know who wins that one, and I have to think at that point it's Hypno favored. So Gallon's game plan here, he may have been pigeonholed, but I'm just not sure that this works very often.
Yeah, I think when you don't have as many resources, just looking at the whole deck-wise, playing a game plan where you're going to draw your whole deck just shouldn't work out.
I think Gallon is legitimately trying to look for an opportunity where he believes Hypno has made a misstep. I think he's trying to create that circumstance.
Yeah, maybe Hypno gets careless and takes a few extra draws with the shield blocks, and all of a sudden he finds himself deeper into fatigue. Or, you know, maybe Gallon's just going for the high roll off Elysiana. Maybe he's just hoping to get a better Elysiana. That can frequently decide the Warrior Mirror if both players are playing passively. But in this case, with Hypno having double Boom Reaver, double Omega Assembly, and Blastmaster Boom, it's just a matter of when does he want to start pushing this heavy tempo.
So is he waiting for the poor Dr. Boom hero powers to show up? I mean, that's usually when I time my Omega Devastators. I'm like, kaboom, finally.
I think when you have two Boom Reavers, you can just start jamming them.
Just start trading them. Is that the carelessness that Gallon's hoping for, though?
Is that careless? I mean,
is it? I don't know. I think passing up good hero powers is.
So delivery.
I think there's an argument for it.
I think Delivery Drone I would not pass up on just because it is just so exceptionally strong. But I think any of the others, he could be worried about his life total and maybe he wouldn't skip out on armor.
There's something else to account for here as well, where you know, I've talked at length with Gallon about the momentum of a warrior matchup and manipulating hand size and board state. And so when Gallon's playing slow here, something that's happening is he is causing Hypno to be in a spot where he's getting to the 10-card mark first, and he's forced to make a decision. So Gallon can't continue that step just yet. He has to make something happen because there's something on board. And so what that means is snowballing the position is really bad for Gallon. But if you can create a circumstance where your opponent has 10 cards in hand and you have nothing in play, they often have to make plays with their cards, and they waste important tools that give you openings, or they have to start burning cards. And I feel like both those positions are counterable right now for Hypno just because he has two Boom Reavers. in hand. It's difficult for Gallon to capitalize on that position ever because Hypno has so much stuff. So this plan, I think, is for Gallon is to create an awkward board state, and it's just going to fail because of Hypno's hand strength.
Right. And I think we're going to finally start seeing some action with the first Boom Reaver being jammed and a delivery drone not being flipped up. We could very well be seeing double Boom Reaver back-to-back right now.
You know, Gallon, he's on the onus of answering this first, and I think that's where you're left vulnerable. Very akin to like the Frost Nova game of chicken that happens in the Cyclone Mage mirrors. It's like the first player who can't capitalize on a Frost Nova is usually the one who's at a major disadvantage. Gallon's not capitalizing on this Omega Devastator. He is answering with it.
Right. This isn't that great of an assembly either. Pretty low value.
2 Snip Snaps in hand, though. I mean, he's got a lot of clear potential.
In hand is really nice, and it can also be used to push damage later on in the game. Hypno's life total is only at 25, whereas Gallon's at 48. But yeah, it's interesting. I think both players are finally starting to play for tempo. Maybe they were waiting till the late game. Maybe Gallon just felt like he didn't have enough resources in the mid game to start pushing for tempo, because in the Warrior Mirror, when you do start pushing for tempo, you never want to let off the gas pedal. You just want to have it every turn, because as soon as you let off the gas pedal, your opponent's not going to have tempo.
It's like when you initiate it, it's final lap.
Right. So I think now Gallon's starting to recognize that I think I have enough gas in hand with double Snip Snap that, yeah, I can start jamming every turn.
This is an interesting turn for Hypno as well. You could see that he reached for Brawl. Oftentimes when I have the advantage in terms of just overall deck list, I find myself wanting to use Brawl.
Oh yeah.
In a somewhat wasteful manner, just so I can unlock the rest of my hand.
I think this is a great Brawl.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, fortunately, the best minion won for Hypno, but I still like this decision a lot.
Yeah, not going to pass 7 armor either. And this is now the exact same position that was happening to Hypno, or that Gallon was trying to create, is happening to Gallon. He is forced to make decisions on playing minions this turn.
Yeah, this is really interesting.
This is the full hand dance that often happens when the Warriors go even in the early to mid stages.
I think the way Gallon's been playing, he's going to save these Snip Snaps. And I kind of respect saving the Snip Snaps a lot because of their flexibility. They allow you to answer really tricky boards. They allow you to magnetize really tall and go face if you want just face damage. They're just, you like having flexible cards like that in your hand. So I think this play makes a lot of sense. Just develop 2 3-powered minions and hero power. Another Boom Reaver. Oh my gosh. That's insane.
3 of a kind Boom
3
Reavers.
Boom Reavers. I mean, he included 1 in his deck, granted, but still getting 2 additional Boom Reavers is pretty insane.
You start with 1, you have the highest chance to get 3.
And
you can't start with 2.
And Gallon only has 1 Omega Devastator naturally in his deck. So, yeah, I think just looking at the way this is panning out, Hypno's just going to start jamming pretty hard.
Wrench Caliber drawn to 7 Blastmaster, too. Things are heating up. Because honestly, Gallon's hand isn't too shabby right now.
Interesting. And a Blastmaster drawn for Gallon as well. He also has the Harrison Jones. Probably wants to get that down first. This hero power is also not too great from Gallon, so he might be trying to utilize all 10 of his mana, 5 of it being left over after Harrison Jonesing.
Yeah, I mean, you're not really getting a much better Harrison target.
Yeah.
I think he would like to see another tool or 2 before he formulates the strongest game plan he can as well. Also just blows up 8 damage. I like blowing up 8 damage.
Okay, and a Devastator drawn, which is going to be nice since we're going to see that Boom Reaver come out pretty soon. Yeah, Hypno doesn't really have a great way of answering this board. It's kind of the downside of having 0 Warpaths in your deck. Oh, and he draws the Dynomatic. That's
a good way to answer the board.
That's a really good way. It also lets him get that 7 armor, which is
lets him use one of these Omega assemblies.
Yeah.
Start unlocking these doors. Those treasure chests that you've been mining for.
Oh my god.
Second Ziliax, Beryllium Nullifier.
Hypno is just getting the perfect discovered mechs this game. I mean, Beryllium Nullifier, second Ziliax, and a Clockwork. That's super high value compared to Gallon getting a Dynomatic, a 2-1, and a Nightmare Amalgam. I mean, card for card.
Hey, he got a second Snip Snap.
He did get a second Snip Snap, but Hypno got a second and a third Boom Reaver.
Wow, you know, it's semantics. Potato, potato.
Yeah, I guess he can't hero power and develop without burning a card at least.
You can't afford to try to burn a card right now. You have an Elysiana left.
Wow, he's double trading. So he's kind of taking the middling approach and valuing his life total, but also valuing his next draw step as well. I think burning a card. Yeah, he doesn't want to burn the Elysiana.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so that makes sense.
No reason to risk it right now, I think.
Yeah, with the double Boom Reaver. Yeah,
I like the value of the life total as well. I think that's actually probably one of the.
That's a great recognize. Like, I think a lot of players there would just trade into the 1/1.
Yeah. My instinct tells me to do that, and then I kind of look down and I go, I'm at 29, Gallon's at 48. I probably need to try to, cushion this gap a little bit. It's getting a little large.
And one thing that's really interesting, Gallon just recognized that. He saw his opponent double train with 3-power minion. He has the option of triple snip snap here. He doesn't need the 7 armor. He could just take a risk and just say, if you have Spellbreaker or Devastator, so be it. But I have the opportunity of pushing 6 damage right now, and you just saw Hypno is valuing his life pretty high. So
I feel like for Gallon though, he will value 6 damage. I think he's looking at what the follow-up looks like if he sees that 6 right now though, and I think it's just not worth it at the end of the day. I think nominal threats are going to be better, and I think that getting Spellbreaker right now is a colossal swing in the tempo.
So yeah, without a very clean way of answering this Dr. Boom, he's just going to go for the Boom Reaver.
Ooh.
That's a nice one. I mean, he's looking for more armor, right?
Yeah,
so that's actually really strong.
I said at the start, Eternium Rovers to soak up Boombot hits. I think it's one of the best potential counters there.
Gallon just drew the Wrench Caliber after playing the Blastmaster. It's quite unfortunate.
Saw a second Boom Reaver. Does that tell Gallon that Hypno just doesn't have strong answers and that maybe now he wants to go in?
I think so.
I don't know. This feels kind of weird to me.
I mean, you have to remember that Hypno also doesn't run Warpath, and he's already used a Brawl. So his only AoE left is just another Brawl.
Unattached, so he's using it just to create wide board state. This is a good turn as well because Hypno.
Yeah, he's recognizing the fact that without a Warpath, it's going to be kind of annoying for Hypno to answer this board. And you can kind of see Hypno stretching his shoulders back. He doesn't know how to answer this board too cleanly.
It's not really a clean answer.
Yeah.
You only have one Spellbreaker.
And Spellbreaking the Boombot, while not being terrible, is not exactly what you're looking for. So I think this is a great setup from Gallon. I really, really like this play.
I think with 2 Ziliaxes, Hypno can play with the life total a bit more aggressively here, though.
Honestly, it's kind of genius, actually. I mean, Gallon's had so many spots to play the Snip Snap. So many. Like, every turn, Snip Snap's been great. And he's just picked the spot where it's just, he has board, he has 2 Death Rattle minions, he's gone a bit wide, and Hypno just doesn't really have a great way to answer.
Yeah, that's
great recognition.
It's a very Gallon type of play in my experience. Is he
really smart.
He wants to wait until he has a strong sense that something is a nuisance.
It's very smart.
This would be a good time for
so for Hypno, he has the hero power. I'm looking at the Rover and the Spellbreaker.
I was looking at Karen and Spellbreaker.
Just develop onto the board the strongest.
To me, the Karen isn't really about answering board either. You want to start closing the armor gap, and Karen is a great minion for just hitting face every single turn.
Actually playing Karen and Spellbreak in the same turn is interesting because it makes Dynamatics damage spread out more.
Yeah. I don't mind taking any of these turns slow either. I think that this is going to work out very nicely for Hypno a lot of times. But in this particular situation, I'm looking at Beryllium Nullifier hit down and an Omega Devastator on the other side. I'm seeing the Ziliax on the other side, Wrench Caliber, still minions in play.
So looks like Hypno's just taking the approach of maximizing his mana usage.
I want to get these threats down though.
Yeah, I think the Devastator's certainly an easy start. It's the only clean answer. I guess you do also have Militia Commander for the Beryllium, but if you're trying to push tempo right now, and I think Gallon is because Hypno's only at 27.
He also
Gallon's at 55.
He's been answering with big clunky things as well. So I think that getting Devastator down with multiple things is one of your strongest outcomes at the moment. Like if I use Militia Commander here, I want to hit the 1/2.
Okay, then.
I'm very interested in Devastatoring. I'd be curious to see. So Gallon's going to save the Devastator.
I think Gallon might think his board's already so strong that he doesn't want to commit more stuff.
That would be what the Militia Commander tells me.
Just ignore this one. Are you going to Wrench Caliber the 1/2? Yeah.
Oh, I love that beauty thing.
why is that card so strong? Like, I just feel like I have to kill a Turning Rover every time it hits play.
Turning Rover's really, really good. I think Town Crier is still better than Rover. Obviously, these guys disagree with me. They both only, actually, Gallon's playing 2 of each.
Well,
Hypno's only playing 1 Town Crier.
Gallon, good. It's about having the consistency of it. The 1 Town Crier has that long-term math thing where you have a much higher chance to draw a dead
I'm fine
Town
having a
Crier.
dead card. I mean, you're a warrior. Like,
You play Archivist Elysiana sometimes. Like, get out of here with the dead card argument. That's my perspective.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just want to have the nut 1 drop. Wow.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's actually pretty crazy because Hypno's definitely had the better RNG this game, like at least with the discovered effects. But Gallon, I think, is ahead right now.
I think a lot of it just comes down to the tempo and recognition. I think Blastmaster Boom here is a pretty disastrous turn for Gallon overall. But for Hypno, he wants this to be delivering damage.
4 to the face.
That's what you want to see every time.
Another
Whoa!
4 to the face. That's insane. Okay.
9 damage. So each Boombot expectation is about 2.5 damage. So he gets, you know, about a 1.5 over average in that spot. You'll take it.
Starting to lessen the gap between the 2 players.
And now the one thing for Gallon here is the recognition that Ziliax still exists for Hypno. And so the first Ziliax, I feel like Gallon is trying to not pressure too hard. So when he sees that, he has a backup plan to continue that tempo afterwards. For me, it's the second Ziliax on Hypno, and can he trap Gallon into way overcommitting once that first Ziliax is gone?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because Gallon definitely recognizes Ziliax hasn't been played, but at the same time, Hypno doesn't really have a great way to
Those Boombots not hitting very hard.
get an opportunity with the Ziliax.
Very nice answer to Dr. Boom. I'm sorry, to Blastmaster Boom.
I think we're finally going to see a Ziliax here. It's going to be hard because usually you want a Devastator plus Ziliax, but then you can't armor up. Ooh, and he draws a bomb.
All right, he's got to do something.
He has to play the Ziliax here. Oh, that's a really insane draw. That's huge.
Oh my
It lets him
gosh.
armor up, play the Clockwork and the Ziliax.
Is Hypno gonna? He reached for the Militia Commander initially, and I'm like, no way.
No,
Like, this is
no,
Clockwork Ziliax.
This is easy Clockwork Ziliax.
Every single time.
Every time, yes. And you have the Devastator Ziliax as backup as well.
This is brutal.
That's huge.
He's still got an assembly in hand too.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. If this goes to resources, Hypno's going to have the long-term advantage. Yeah, if you're a Gallon fan, you hate to see that. So Gallon has the option of...
Ooh.
It's probably going to... Oh, Spellbreaker. That's pretty nice. I think we want to see what's in the delivery drone box first before deciding what to do.
Before you see it, what's the best one? Close your eyes.
Mega Devastator.
All right. What about Beryllium Nullifier?
Beryllium Nullifier is good too. You know, the increase from 3 to 4 attack has actually been pretty huge, I think. I wasn't thinking it was going to be that big of a deal, but 4 attack is a lot.
Yeah, four attack is the reason no priest showed up. That's the that's the weakness of all priest decks.
There it is.
Real talk, the 4 attack is a pretty massive increase, and for me, the lone reason has been turning a 1 attack minion into a way to kill a Mega Devastator on a backswing.
Yeah, there's a lot of breakpoints that just increasing 1 attack hits. So Gallon has multiple ways of answering this Clockwork. It's just depending on what does he think is the most resource efficient. I think he needs to value the most resource efficient right now. Wait, what?
He was valuing pressure. I'm telling you, he saw the Ziliax, and that was his pressure point.
Wow.
I've seen Gallon play a lot.
So,
And this is what he always tries to do.
This makes a lot of sense. I think I'm understanding Gallon's approach to the Warrior matchup.
And that's the second
now.
Ziliax kicker. It's gonna come back to haunt him. He's never anticipating a second Ziliax.
I mean, you never play around the second Ziliax.
He's talked a lot about it, where he's like, you should account for some things, but for the most part, you have to account for a range of things. And so
he's not far enough ahead is the problem.
You have to pick one portion and go that direction.
Yeah. I think Gallon's game plan is really smart. So basically, he took the approach of hands off in the early game, wait for the Dr. Boom Mad Genius to come down, and then just start deploying his wave of threats. So I think that was a very smart approach. Yeah, I just don't think he has enough resources to play around the second Ziliax. Interesting.
Defend the gates. Somebody order a bomb.
I think this is a reasonable turn for Hypno.
Yeah, he's got to just keep fighting back, honestly. And again, the question of when is the best time to use this Elysiana?
Yeah, you always want Elysiana first, right? You don't want to be in fatigue. Your opponent has already Elysiana'd, and you're having to answer his threats every turn.
Yeah, you don't want to have to be in a trapped on tempo, because so many times I've seen when a player is waiting the maximum time for Elysiana.
Yeah, you don't usually almost never wait to fatigue for Elysiana.
Well, I usually do,
really?
And I usually get punished. And I never learned this lesson for some reason. Don't get tempoed out when you need to play Elysiana.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I've played Elysiana with an empty deck.
Well, that's why you're in Grandmasters. Come on, bloody face.
Yeah, so this Boom Reaver is a really clean answer. And if you're Gallon, oh my god, this is insane.
It's just a 7/7.
Hypno's RNG this game is... I mean, I don't want to take anything away from him as a player. I think he's played this game fantastically, and I love his lineup. But, man.
Look, there's three things that got to happen to win a tournament. One, you have to build a good deck. Two, you have to play that deck really well. And three, you're going to have to get lucky at some point.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's what I tell everybody when they lower them. Like, you got to get lucky to win. Like, it's just a part of...
We're talking, you got to win 12... You got to go through 12 rounds of Swiss. So that meant for most players, 10 wins. Then you have to go through a double elimination bracket. That's 2 more wins. And then you have to win the next 2 rounds to win the tournament. You have to win 14 rounds this weekend.
Yeah, you have to have an above 90% win rate, which is unrealistic over a long period of time.
Someone's
no matter how
it,
good
though.
you are.
It's going to happen to somebody, though.
Oh, yeah, it's got to happen to somebody.
That's
Absolutely.
what I love to see. Second Snip Snap. This card is so good. Each one represents 4 points of damage. And so for Gallon here, this is a full clear, but it would take all of his minions.
Yeah.
And you have to parse it out correctly, too. So first attack goes there. That means 1 attack next.
Yeah, so each of these Snip Snaps represent 4 attacks. So he's going to have... I don't think he's going to have any leftovers, right? This should
Correct.
Everything's just going to trade in.
It takes the entirety of it. You just have to remember that you cannot put 2 front ends of Snip Snap into the 7th tree.
Yeah, I think if you're Hypno, you're fine with this. He still has the Cairn in hand. Still has this delivery drone. Oh, yeah. Another Clockwork. Security Rover is also nice as well.
Security Rover is just becoming interesting because it feels like one of Gallon's main forms of developing board at this point is literally going to be microbots. But if I put Clockwork Goblin in my deck, I'm probably just taking Clockwork Goblin.
Yeah, I mean, the 5 damage is going to hit at a certain point, so...
He's hanging on to the Omega Assembly, too, and I really like this from Hypno, where he's valuing the flexibility of hand, up until right now, where he knows his hand's going to start panning out more aggressively. But there is, I think, 2 other opportunities this game for him to use the mana on Omega Assembly, but it would have filled up his hand. And so he was valuing that flexibility for the right timing. Now that Hypno has used this Omega Assembly, this tells me that Hypno firmly feels he's the aggressor.
Right.
And so you think about how Gallon was taking his time to get to this point. Hypno was waiting for Gallon to pretty much gas out in that scenario.
Yeah, and I think with Gallon finally playing the shield block in his hand, he's kind of recognized the fact that he can't play this to fatigue anymore. He's going to have to start jamming. He needs to get that Elysiana down. He needs to discover something really powerful.
Yeah. Also, is there a key tool that he's missing so far? That's something that I haven't necessarily tracked so far this game. I'm trying to look at his deck list.
Well, he's had the Blastmaster.
Yeah.
He's had the Mad Genius, and those are the 2 biggest ones.
He's had both Wrench Calibers, I think.
Snip Snap. I think he's gone through most of the power cards in his deck. He still has the Zilliax in hand.
Well, we talked about having dead cards and being fine with it. Both Town Criers fetch 0 cards.
I mean, it hurts especially when you don't have a sideboard for Warrior, right? Like, when I played this weekend, for example, I was playing Geppetto and Barista, so I didn't really mind having the dead card. Whereas Gallon, for example, in the Warrior Mirror, he doesn't have that. He's playing 4 different 1-drops.
Yeah, it's primary through and through.
Yeah.
And just you look at the card difference now, and I think Gallon got bested in this one.
Yeah.
I think the card difference would still be here, just not quite to the same disparity that it is right now.
Right, yeah.
And now Security Rover is just looking awfully good.
This Galvanizer also discounting how many minions? 5 minions? That's 2 mana, gain 5 mana?
Yeah,
That's
big
pretty
deal.
good. It's not a big deal. I'm just
What are you going to do with 5 coins?
I'm just a big fan of efficiency. I love to see that. So he can take a full clear here if he wants. He wants to get that Rover down for sure.
Well, you got 6 mana, and it normally costs 6. Now it costs 5. Your mana efficiency
one
was
mana.
actually less here.
Come
You
on.
should have played the the Galvanizer second for more mana.
Yeah, you play the Rover first and then the Galvanizer. Then you use all your mana. It's a clear misplay. Really? He's not going to play the Rover here? What?
I think he's valuing the flexibility of if Gallon can unleash a wave of bombs, being able to fill his hand.
Oh. Well, he has the Elysiana for that, though, right? Like, if Gallon ever just goes in on bombs.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking about, is maybe you don't want to necessarily play your Elysiana. I don't think that Hypno's losing tempo. I think it's almost impossible for him to lose tempo.
All right, here we go. Elysiana needs
Yikes.
something pretty insane.
Those are not insane.
These are not insane, but Shield Slam, I mean, we take that. These are also not insane.
Probably Buffoon, which would
Probably
looking
Buffoon,
awfully bad.
Buffoon plus Ziliax?
Oh, Buffoon can fill up your hand, too.
Not terribly relevant. Oh, Mechatoon. This is what Gallon needs. This is what Gallon needs.
No, that can't happen. That's not going to happen.
It's a non-zero chance.
It's a 10-10 rush. That's where I'm going to... Nope, 0 chance. I'm saying it. I'm making the call. And I want you to make the opposite call right now, that it's definitely going to happen.
Well, we can't play this enough iterations for me to prove that it's non-zero.
Yeah, but that's why we're going to use this one particular game to decide the future of all of these iterations.
I mean, just looking at Hypno's hand right now, I agree with you that it's not going to be enough, but if you're Gallon and you're in his seat, you don't know that. So he did take the Mechatoon.
Yeah, it's a bit, I mean, just 10-10 rush. He needs something to get back into this pretty drastically.
So for Hypno, it's just kind of an embarrassment of riches. I mean, he has tons of options.
Take your pick.
I like starting out with Devastator and then seeing what's in the box with the delivery drone.
Is he looking for Shield Slam, perhaps?
He might value getting Ziliax down right now. Just like maybe wants to Clockwork Goblin plus Ziliax to rush to gain some life.
Or perhaps just attach it for the extra damage.
I think this is the most straightforward approach.
Because right now you're getting
Another Devastator or Boom Reaver. I like the Devastator.
Yeah,
you got enough threats.
Hand flexibility. I think the auxiliary use of Ziliax is here. You restore life, and I think that the auxiliary use that you push damage, and then the main effect that you gain some HP.
So Hypno's recognized that the only way he can lose this game is drawing a bunch of bombs, and he's just going to stay at 10 cards.
Yeah, I think it's wise.
Gallon, on the other hand,
work it out for him.
Stinomatic does clear the second half of Cairn. Bane.
Okay, then.
You know, it's actually interesting. If Hypno doesn't take an aggressive enough approach and he waits a little bit too long, does it give Gallon enough time?
Oh, why would you put that out in the world?
It's a non-zero chance. I mean, Hypno can play weird. I don't know.
I mean, to Hypno of all people, why would you put that out there?
Light the music.
What did he do wrong?
I love this.
How did he
He's
hurt
playing
you?
the Acolyte.
He's actually going for the Mechatoon position.
He wants to draw all the rest of his deck.
He's actually taking... the only reason to play the Acolyte here is literally the Mechatoon approach.
And if you're Hypno, it's really interesting to see your opponent play Acolyte at this point, because what does that say? Does that give away Hypno or Gallon's pick?
I think it just means that Gallon's desperate in Hypno's position.
Ooh.
You take the Devastator,
Yeah,
right?
you take the Devastator. It's just
better than
if you could trade Assembly for Devastator, I think you would do that.
It's like the card you're looking for.
Rotten Apple Bomb.
Greenskin's kind of interesting.
I think he's done with all of his weapons though. Whelp is also good, especially with Ziliax. Weapons Project.
Just when you said he was done with the weapons.
Weapons Project in case some
Gallon
weird
has
shenanigans happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's also, there's potential for a Wrench Calibre to be left for Gallon. He overrode some cards, but yeah, I think it's... Oh,
yep.
Gosh, I didn't even see the Clockworks. He just rebuilt his deck, basically.
Basically, yeah.
So he can Shield Slam.
And it's interesting because the shield blocks are actually good now, since Gallon, if he wants to win this game, is going to have to play every card in his deck.
Yeah. Can play with his life a bit here with the Ziliax in hand.
Interesting. I think I would have liked to see shield block, shield slam, hero power on the Luciana.
Well,
he had a full clear.
Well, hang on a second. So Hypno just took the turn slow, I think, all things considered. For Gallon, when he plays this Wrench Caliber and he goes face, I feel like he might be trying to sell the idea that he's playing for a very aggressive approach to that Acolyte to mask the Mechathune more, so that when Hypno sees the first one, maybe it's too late by that point.
Yeah, so if Gallon feigns aggression, he doesn't have the backup, but he's representing aggression. Maybe Hypno takes an even more defensive stance, and that gives Gallon enough time to play the Mechathune. And it's also interesting because he has 2 Mechatunes. So he's going to have to somehow finagle his way of killing the first Mechathune, which will have to be done because it's a 10-10.
So the thing that I mentioned is a consequence of something that Gallon has done. The main one there is that because you have to use both Mechathunes, what that means is if Hypno's plan is just to simply leave it alone and try to outlast it while Gallon wastes away from fatigue, it means that the 10-10 actually presents real pressure in that point.
Hypno's only at 17.
Yeah.
That's only 2 hits off Mechathune.
He's getting a lot of bonus benefits from it. And this, honestly, a fairly weak use of the Ziliax because it's so easily dealt with from Gallon's perspective. I think Gallon's got a real chance here.
Yeah.
7-7 staying up might have something to say about that, but we have a game.
First Mechathune is drawn. I don't think you quite want to play it yet, especially with the delivery drone. I want to see what your options are first.
War Gear is interesting.
You got War Gear plus Ziliax as a potential for a big life point swing later on in the game.
He needs to start making something happen pretty darn soon here, though.
There's 2 big minions in play. I don't think he really wants to face tank this 8. It's probably going to shield block, shield slam.
Yeah, and so for there, what I see is Gallon is going to have to tank some damage in the immediacy from the 7-7 again, and then you use the Ziliax War Gear to heal that back up.
Yeah.
So for Hypno this turn, I feel like the objective is get the biggest, most threatening thing imaginable.
And if you're a Hypno and you're card tracking, you would know that Ziliax hasn't been played yet.
Yeah, or that it was overridden in the Elysiana. It's one of those 2.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Weapons Project drawn can override the Wrench Caliber, which is pretty nice.
Security over here is awfully nice too. It actually somewhat counters that plan that Gallon just had, because you would create a taunt minion, and that wipes away a big hit. But I don't think he's interested in that.
I like the Whelp here. Just develop a 7-7. Just try and present as many threats as you can.
That's also about the same thing, because it's 2 big threats now. That somewhat fights against the Ziliax War Gear plan.
And I would like to see him trade the Whelp in. Otherwise, your board just isn't threatening enough.
I totally agree.
So he's going to have a think real quick, make the obvious attacks first.
He goes, those are always happening.
Yes.
So now let me take a look.
I mean, from a resource point of view, Hypno has the advantage. So he could just go face and just try and play for resources, but if you're thinking about how does Gallon win this game, Mechathune should pop into your head.
In this turn in particular, it's just the 2-2 now.
He's going to kill it?
Well,
really?
he's going to kill the mech version instead of the 7-7 version.
I mean, I
don't know if I agree with that.
I don't agree with that. I like playing the War Gear Ziliax and just killing Luciana, ignore the mechanical Whelp.
Magnetize on the Ziliax so that you maintain a bigger body in the face of silence.
Yeah, yeah.
Unity.
It's a very sharp technical play. Gallon also gets the benefit of not wasting a hero power, the dealing 1 damage being the worst, obviously. And he didn't hit with the weapon.
Well, Gallon's plan is the Mechathune right now.
I don't, but I think hitting with the weapon is what you should. I think it gives away information is the problem. Like, you're not losing anything by keeping the weapon. You should just hit with it because you want to represent that I'm still trying to kill you.
Okay, then.
Your magic shall not
So,
save
yeah, you don't want to give any information away at this point. Because if Hypno knows that you have Mechathune as an out, that's when you start getting in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think Hypno knows that, for what it's worth, just based on his play last turn of not treating the Whelp in.
Yeah.
He's not being as aggressive as he possibly can.
Not really a way for him to know right now.
Well, I mean, you can think about it in the sense, like, how do I lose this game? He's ahead on resources. He's ahead on fatigue. I don't know. For me personally, I just always think about Mechathune, I guess.
Full house, bananas over Mechathunes.
All right, so does he want to reveal the Mechathune yet? He can see what's in the box. Potentially find something like Omega Devastator to deal with the board.
You can't not press the button, but if you press the button and get a dead piece,
You
like,
take 11. 11's a lot. He has no answers in hand.
no.
Here it is.
The
All
jig
right,
is up.
so Hypno knows now. Hypno knows. The information is out there.
So
It's up to Hypno to figure out how
two
do I
things.
kill him.
There's two things here. Hypno needs to save a Clockwork Goblin. If you save a Clockwork Goblin and Gallon cannot kill the Mechathune instantaneously, what that means is you can then shuffle in a bomb and kill the Mechathune. If he doesn't recognize that, what that means is Gallon's Mechathune at the end of the game will present
wait.
10 points of pressure.
Are you saying to play the Clockwork Goblin when
No.
Gallon's fatiguing, or when he
So-
has one card left?
When the last card is Mechathune and Gallon needs to have it die, you just don't have 10 health to trade in, or 10 attack to trade into. So Gallon trades over your minion to start killing
Gotcha,
the Mechathune.
gotcha.
You then follow
Wow.
up by shuffling a bomb into the deck and killing the Mechathune.
Have you seen this scenario before? 'Cause
I play a lot of Bomb Warrior Bloodyface. I take Mechathune literally every single time. I have thought way too much
That's
about
really
it for
smart.
any normal
Actually,
human being
wow.
situation.
Yeah, I did not have that in mind, but that's really smart actually. That's the perfect counter. Yeah, because Gallon's not going to be able to kill this Mechathune the same turn he plays it. It's just-
Unless Hypno has 10 attack out, which the two situations for him to avoid are literally having 10 attack in play and not having a Clockwork Goblin.
He played the Clockwork.
Now, he has a second one.
He has
from
a second one,
Archivist
okay.
Lysiana, but
But Gallon only has 4 cards left, one of
Right.
them being a bomb.
this tells me that Hypno has potentially not thought about that as a
I don't think
potential
he
out.
knows it, because
it's super rare that it ever
look
comes
at
up.
this. He has Devastator. He has the Clockwork. That's checkmate against Mechathune.
Yes.
He had the checkmate in hand.
Unless Gallon can kill his own Mechathune the same turn it's played.
But it's unless you have Galvanizer, that's
And 10 armor.
and 10 armor, which
That's not happening.
extremely. You know, I said the Mechathune was non-zero, but I'm going to go ahead and say killing in the same turn is a 0 from Hypno's point of view. I just don't think there's a combination where that comes up.
There's just no, this can't happen. I don't believe it.
Gallon has an out. I mean, if Hypno doesn't draw the Clockwork, and even if he does, he has to recognize shuffling a bomb and killing the Mechathune in the same turn.
I'm nervous.
Which I did not recognize that. And I don't even have the pressure of playing. I'm just sitting up here in the caster booth.
I'm so nervous.
This is awesome. This is awesome. I really want to see this Mechathune win.
Oh, don't play it.
He drew the Clockwork. Does he recognize it? You know, Hypno, if he doesn't recognize it, he might just go for the second Clockwork to try and pressure. Try and shuffle the bombs in and just hope he kills Gallon before the Mechathune happens. Which is a game plan that I could also see working, but it's not as checkmate as just saving it.
Yeah. The thing about it is the Clockwork Goblin pressure worth enough to push Gallon off of being able to make that Mechathune a possibility? That, to me, is one of the big questions. Is just the pressure of the bombs enough to get it done?
2 bombs shuffled in. He's going to take 10, go down to 12. He's facing down a pretty big board.
That's the thing.
I just don't think Gallon has enough time.
And I think that's, you know,
As much as I wanted to see this Mechathune win. All right, first bomb is drawn. Second bomb is drawn. So what does he have left? He has like a Dynomatic and I believe a Cruel Taskmaster left, I think. Yeah,
yeah, he needs too much time.
he can answer 2 of these. He can answer the 2-3 and the 3-3. He takes 5, 8, 10 damage. Not technically lethal yet, but it's getting
pretty
pretty
much
close. Yeah.
It's a shield slam for 0.
You know, Feliciano only shuffled like 4 cards in, 2 of them being Mechathune. Gallon might have had enough time. I mean, I don't know if Gallon did this, but he also saved his shield blocks for after the Elysiana. Maybe he was playing for the Mechathune out. That would have been genius.
There's just too much here for Hypno. So for Hypno, it's the recognition of that the pressure was enough to keep Gallon at bay.
And it's actually, I mean, he has 2 Devastators left over, but if you look at still coming to the conclusion of this game, even though Hypno did discover a lot more powerful stuff, they're still kind of even on card quality. So pretty impressive for Gallon to pull that back to close to even. But yeah, this life total disparity, I think at this point, Hypno, he knows Gallon's going to have no cards left in deck. He's thinking about, is there any way possible way for me to lose this game?
I believe it is. He knows all the last remaining pieces, right?
He should, if he's keeping track of all the cards. I believe it's
Oh,
Cruel
he had a
Task.
third Clockwork Goblin?
Oh, I love that fuse thing.
He just has a million Clockworks, I guess.
So one of them was from the last Omega assembly he held. I assumed it was one of the ones that was drawn from the shuffling on Elysiana. Oh, well. Wow, he got every corner checked.
Just gonna hero power. Goes to 1.
That's it. I'm out of cards.
So yeah, last card was Cruel Taskmaster. He can armor up, shield slam the 4/5, hit the 3/3, Cruel Taskmaster it. He goes down to 5. He takes 2 from the rover, goes down to 3. He's not technically dead, but from Hypno's point of view, he is dead because Hypno has the Clockwork Goblin.
Well navigated for Hypno.
So close.
I loved Hypno's patience in trying to recognize the momentum swing as well, where it took him a long time to arrive at that point. But once he did, he really kept the pressure high pretty much the entire way after that. Now he's afforded the resources of it, but that's part of building your deck very greedy, and at the same time, being patient with big tools. Neither player was willing to unleash Omega Devastators just simply to try to generate a wave of pressure. They were using it to generate a wave of pressure, and that's great recognition on both parts, I think.
Yeah, I like the way both players played this match.
Just solid. And now Game 3 is coming up, and so it's been a pretty grueling set so far, where we've gone the distance, the full Elysiana distance in Game number 2.
And
are you mentally ready for Game number 3?
Yeah, like I said, I think I told you earlier, if I could have played 12 Warrior Mirrors in this tournament, I would have happily taken that. I love the Warrior Mirror.
I love them too. If you don't love them, well, this is
you just don't love Hearthstone.
This is pretty much the only one we got. Bloody Face said it, not me. So we got to go to a quick break. Players need a breather here, and so do we. So we're going to quick break, and when we come back, the final game of this set, but plenty more Hearthstone today as we crown a champion here at the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. We are back at the Masters Tour in Las Vegas, and we are amidst the winners' matches for our dual elimination group stage. The top 8 is going on, and we're cutting top 4 pretty soon. I'm joined by Grandmasters player Bloodyface. And Bloodyface, game 3 of this grueling set is coming up, and I could not be more excited for it.
Same. I'm really excited. I think I understand both players' approach to the Warrior Mirror better, so I think I'll have a better job understanding where they're coming from. Looking forward to it.
And there's a lot at stake on this game right here. The winner of this moves out of the group and onto the top 4, which not only means a bit of extra cash in your pocket, but also working towards that Grandmaster slot that's going to be up as we move towards Season 2 of Grandmasters. You need to be the best performer in your region if you want to be in contention for that.
Right. I mean, both of these players are off to a great start. I believe there's only one other NA player in the top 8, in Dog. He could potentially get relegated, but for Gallon, he's in a great position. If Dog maintains his Grandmaster status, he's well on his way of getting in.
The top performers over the course of the Masters Tour for the year will be in contention to take those relegation spots from Season 2 of Grandmasters. And so for Gallon, you know, he was on the brink of making it due to his performance last year. He was just outside the cut on points. Yep. And for Gallon, you know, he came in, he cast in week number 4 of Grandmasters with me. For the European region, and we had talked a lot about it. You know, he had mentioned, you know, the year that he had worked and how he couldn't quite attend every single tournament, didn't necessarily have the time for ladder, and you know how much that he really valued the idea of making it to Grandmasters. And coming to this tournament, players know that it's a long shot. It's a very stacked field of a large number of players. And I said, Gallon, just win. And he kind of laughed it off, and he's like, yeah, that's a good idea. And here he is, top 8, and he's 1 game away from moving on to top 4.
I feel like for someone like Gallon, who's been in the scene for a long time and just always kind of been on the cusp of having some really amazing finishes, he's got to be hungry. You know, he's got to want that big title. He's got to want to be part of, considered one of the best in the world. And I think when you're in that spot, it just pushes you to work even harder. It pushes you to be even more motivated. And I think that kind of shows in his result this weekend, making top 8.
Gallon good.
Gallon good.
So now, some context of the matchup that's lined up. Neither player has Dr. Boom at this point. However, Gallon does have Blastmaster Boom.
He does have Blastmaster. He already has 1 bomb shuffled in. So I would have to put the favor in Gallon's spot right now.
Just from the hand context?
Yeah.
Look at you, Bloodyface. Already pro cat. Bloodyface started no-taking the bombs, and I have not been doing that because I've been focusing on a million other things, as is typical to casting. Immediately grabs the pen. Pro
I want to
gamer.
be on top of the bomb count
Pro
this
gamer.
game because it is important.
I'm doing it too. Good habits make good calls.
So I believe both of them have 1 bomb in their deck right now.
That's right. Clockwork versus Wrench. We're about to be up to 2.
Interesting. So
You want to snip snap here, don't you?
you know, just recognizing what they do early game from last game, both of them kind of a hands-off approach. I think they're both kind of waiting towards the mid-end game to start getting aggressive.
Wrench Caliber drawn.
Wow.
That is, we're looking at turn 6 Blastmaster here. Hang on, this could be a blowout.
This game might be over fast.
This is the one situation where I think Hypno's in trouble, and honestly, that little Eternium Rover could be a major saving grace of this situation.
I really like this. I really like the snip snap. You gotta have something to fight against the coin boom, and that's what you're worried about the most right now. That's how you lose the game. So for Gallon, he could trade off the 1-2 to have an extra boom bot, and I think I like that.
I wonder if you delay the response of the boom here. Like you could be on a Warpath turn. You attack a Snip Snap, you attack the other one with the Town Crier, you Warpath 3 times.
I mean, you do run the risk of Hypno drawing some of his bombs, so you lose out on some boom bots. But then again, having the Snip Snaps in play are going to absorb some of the bomb hits, so
It effectively takes them away.
and effectively takes them away. I actually do like the Warpath here, I think.
Gallon just says, ah.
I mean, you got 3 bombs in deck. Why not coin the Blastmaster, right? Like, that's
7 equals 7. That's Gallon's math here. 7 equals 7.
7 mana, 7 armor, 7/7. So for Hypno's point of view,
Yikes.
well, he has the Dynomatic, which kind of almost cleanly answers the boom. He can trade the Snip Snap in. He'll have 4 1/1s. He can trade the 2 1/1s into 2 different boom bots.
I'm actually really just surprised Gallon didn't go for a Warpath here. Like,
I like the Warpath.
Snip
I
Snaps
liked
are
it.
just absorbing so much. Like it's almost countering the whole
I
like
think
Blastmaster.
the only downside to Warpath is drawing the bomb. And in addition, Gallon has 7 armor and a shield slam. He gets to hold the coin.
Yeah.
He can go shield slam coin. Blastmaster.
I'm very surprised.
I think he should have thought about that a little bit. He kind of, I feel like it was a little bit hasty.
Gallon plays his things, man. I'll tell you that. Like, I don't blame him for playing it. I don't think it's a bad play. I just think that the upside is
having a clear board, right?
Yeah, it's
You
foregone.
want to play Blastmaster in a clear board, not in a death rattle and 1/1 minions.
Yeah, not against Quad Harvest Golem or whatever it is.
So it looks like Hypno is valuing the bomb sitting into the Militia Commander and potentially the Eternium Rover, so he's going to hold the Dynamatic. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of this. I really like getting value out of the Dynamatic when I can.
So for Gallon now, is this an opportunity?
Wow!
No
He drew the
way.
mat. I mean, Gallon just knew.
The thing about
he just
it,
knew he was going to top deck the...
So here's the thing. I don't think that that Dr. Boom is like the end-all be-all of the matchup. But when you are the aggressor and you are pressuring Hypno to aggressively use resources to answer, it is way different. Like, if you're the aggressor and you have it, and your opponent's the defender and does not, very different.
This is the way I see it. Tempo and value are like currency. You can exchange tempo for value, you can exchange value for tempo. And when you play Blastmaster really early, it's going to force your opponent to expend their resources into tempo to regain that back, and that's what's going to let the game be a lot more evened up.
That's so smart.
That's why early tempo matters so much.
And now the bomb's getting drawn. So now Hypno's under the pressure of just his life total as well. He's going to have to spend here. 2 bombs left for Hypno.
Yeah, this is looking very Gallon favored. He even has the Mad Genius follow-up in case, and even the Acolyte as well.
Look, he's having to spend.
This is
an
exactly what I'm
Assembly.
talking about. He needs to find answers to this board. He has Dynamatic for the Militia Commander. He could play the Rover in the same turn as well, maybe absorb some hits, but it's
I think Gallon's looking
not
to
looking too
either,
hot.
with the hold on the Dr. Boom there, it's not only a tempo play, but also can you mix it with a hero power, or can you use it to get a big shield slam?
Turn 7 boom, turn 8 boom, not really that important. Turn 9 boom, a little bit better. Yeah, you get the advantage of the hero power. As long as you're pushing tempo, that's what matters more, I think.
Oh my. This is about to get ugly.
Ooh, so he's
going to magnetize the Ziliax.
He can magnetize Ziliax and shield slam.
He will be foregoing Dr. Boom this turn.
Yeah, definitely.
I know Gallon when I see him.
I mean, this is how you end the game early with Bomb Warrior. This is the one scenario. Well, there's a few scenarios, but this is one of the few scenarios where the game can end pretty quickly.
Hypno's in trub. And I don't use the word trub lightly, bloody face.
Gallon also has this Warpath, so if at any point he just wants to pop these bombs and try and go for lethal, he has that option as well.
I mean, Hypno's just like, he's almost just dead.
Hypno, yeah, even if he had a Ziliax?
Like, what does he do?
These 2 shield slams are stranded in hand. He's got the Boom Reavers uncastable. It's not turn 10, so he can't play Devastator. These Dynamatics don't hit anything.
Nothing's a good shield slam. The Dynamatics only hit the Militia Commander.
His hand is just dead. Like, his hand just does not deal with this board. And that's one of the downsides of removing Warpath and answers in the Warrior Mirror, is that if you find yourself behind on tempo, it's really tough for you to get back in.
It opens this opportunity for Gallon because he's very confident Hypno's on the same deck as he was last game.
Oh, absolutely.
Both players are.
Yeah.
And so he goes, I don't even need to think about Warpath.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Dynamatic doesn't clear the Missile Commander because there's an Acolyte down.
Right. Just giving Gallon more resources.
This is just all, like, what can he even do?
I'm trying to think what he could get off Assembly. That could...
Ziliax.
He could get Ziliax. I think he might just Assembly
I
next
don't even know if
turn.
that works. I mean, Ziliax doesn't even do anything here.
I mean, if he gets Ziliax, he can Devastator Ziliax next turn. But the problem is he has no play right now.
There might not be a next turn.
Is he just dead?
Double shield slam the Militia Commander.
I think that's his only play.
4, 5, 6, 7. Gallon needs to get 5 damage from these boombots to end.
I don't even know if he needs to take that risk.
Well, if you triple Warpath, you also just draw 3 cards.
Yeah, but you're giving up board.
He's going for
He's
it.
going for it.
Gallon says he wants to end this game right now.
He's got to low roll pretty hard.
2.5 damage per boombot is the expectation. He expects to win here, but now it has to be 3, so he's going to deviate.
This actually gives Hypno an opportunity to get Ziliax, and then he has Omega Devastator Ziliax. if he gets it off the assembly.
There's still bombs left in the deck for Hypno.
There's
Has
still
to fade a
bombs
bomb
left
draw.
in the deck. He has 2 bombs left. Does not draw it.
Shield block.
Shield block after the shield slam. Not what you want to see. All right, we gotta see assembly here,
I mean, you got to make something drastic happen right now. It has to be right now.
You need Zilliax. Zilliax on the, or sorry, Devastator on the 3/4 gets Zilliax trained to the bomb. Zilliax?
No Zilliax.
No Zilliax.
I think you got a shield block.
You got, yeah, I think you're dead if you don't shield block now. What is it? What are his outs now? He's already used both shield slams.
Zilliax.
That does get a Zilliax.
Sometimes.
He needs it to get. You just at this point you assume it gets Zilliax because you lose if it doesn't.
So Hypno's trying to figure out a way to stick a minion in play to try and mitigate as much boombot potential as possible. Replicating Menace, I think, gives you the most minions in play to do that. But he has to press this armor up button or he's dead.
Yeah, he's just dead on board. Yeah, yeah.
So in my head, I want to Town Crier, but that means I can't play the Replicating Menace or anything else.
You can play
this turn
Town
for that
Crier
matter.
next turn. They still have enough mana for Devastator Zilliax.
And Gallon still a chance to win this game. Right now, the order of operation of Death Rattles is that the Boombot, if everything died simultaneously,
first, yeah.
happens before the Replicating Menace.
Could
so
also
Gallon
just play
can
Dr. Boom and get any damage. Or 3 damage, right?
magnetizes from the Omega Assembly you just drew. I mean, Gallon's got ways to win.
Definitely start with the assembly. That
This
might
is
give
2
you lethal.
chances. Not
No,
lethal there, so
no
Dr.
lethal
Boom.
there, yeah.
And if he gets 3 damage, that's game. Laser comes up, and Gallon is going to take
nice.
the series 2-1. My goodness.
Wow.
You set it up too. Tempo and value are types of currency, and Gallon spent the tempo to cost Hypno something, and it pushed him against the wall, and Gallon comes away with just sheer tempo winning the game. Fantastic draw. He drew his important key cards, but the important part to me is that he capitalized on them immediately after doing so.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Early Blastmaster, that's one of the ways to end the game early, and when you have both bomb makers into it, especially coin blame.
We talked about
Blastmaster?
the coins too, and how
Yeah.
valuable they are to create those inflection points. He had coin 7 into 7. That is the actual ideal situation from drawing a Clockwork and a Wrench Caliber.
Yep. Great stuff.
My goodness, take a look at the standings and see how things are shaping up. Hypno is not done. In fact, he's got a little bit of waiting to do right now, where Gallon has now moved out of the group and is on to the top 4 here at the Masters Tour in Las Vegas. Hypno will wait to see what his fate is. Is it going to be Dog or Nyria who have to face off in that elimination match here in Group B? But wow, what a way to cap that series off.
Yeah, that was a great series. I really enjoyed watching that. Almost got to see the Mechathune win. Ended up not mattering for Gallon. He just got the Blastmaster next game anyways. Just able to, exchange that tempo. And, yeah, I mean, Hypno's hand, just taking out the Warpass, not having the right answers, and those shield blocks being stranded. If he actually used that Dynamatic early on to kill the Boom, the Militia Commander might have given him more flexibility to answer the board.
That's a true story. I liked the Dynamatic that turn.
Yeah,
I really did.
I like that as well.
Well, yeah, either way, it is what it is now, and we got to move on to the rest of the matches here. We're crowning a champion here today, so Bloodyface, thank you very much for joining us. Do you have any final words before we head out?
Warrior Mirrors, OP. I love them.
I love them too, bud. We've been on the desk here with America's Grandmaster, Bloodyface, and me. That's admirable. But we got to go to a break. When we come back, we got more matches coming up. As soon as we are done with the top 8, we're moving on to top 4, and we're playing until we crown a champion who's winning $100,000 and becoming the Masters Tour Las Vegas champion. Stay tuned.